Hi everyone, this is Rajsuthan and welcome to a new video. And today we're going to build a REST API which is going to handle sign in, sign up and sign out functionalities. So this is the basic user authentication API that we are going to build that will help us to sign in a user, sign up a user and sign in a user and also sign out a user. So I'll be showing you all the validation authentication you got to do just to build this authentication segment of a REST API. And you can use this API in your code or anything like that, even in production built websites if you want to do it. But this is just going to give you a beginner level idea and also takes you a better process on how to build this authentication REST API. Okay, so without any ado, let's get started. So before I even start explaining the introduction, I would just suggest you, if you have all the technologies to get started with coding, so I would just suggest you to go and skip to this part of the video. I also will have a timestamp, or else we can just follow me in the video, which I will show you what tools we are going to use and what tools you need for us to make sure everything is going to work perfectly fine while we build it. Okay. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to need is Postman. So Postman is basically helps us to test REST API. So you don't need to have a front end to always test your APIs. You can just put your code, you can just put your link, you can set up your request and send the request, and that will give you a response. So we're going to use Postman to test it and build the whole API. Okay, test the API. And then you also need Node.js to do it because we are building it in Node, and we're going to use Express as a framework, but still you need Node to install all of your npm packages and stuff. So make sure you download the stable version. If you want, you can go with the beta version, or so the beta or the new version, but you can just go ahead and download the new version. Okay, which I mean the stable version. And then we need a database. So we're gonna, as I told before, we're gonna use MongoDB. I'll just repeat myself. We're using MongoDB, Express, and Node.js, and maybe in the future we will use a React.js to add the front end, probably like a Monster application. But for now, this is what we're gonna do in this video. Just build the authentication API only. So you need to make sure you download MongoDB, obviously, and I will also leave a link for the download if you want to go ahead and download that properly. I will show you which you need stuff, but you need to go ahead and download it properly in your system, whether it's Mac or Windows or Linux or whatever. But make sure you have MongoDB installed. And then you also need a RoboTreaty. RoboTreaty just gives you a graphical user interface on what you're gonna see inside the MongoDB. So whatever user data you're gonna store, MongoDB is not gonna go in and show you. You need a RoboTreaty, which is gonna give you a simple graphical user interface so that you can go ahead and see what you have installed, and just gives you a better view on what your data has been stored. So you wanna go ahead and download the RoboTreaty version, not the studio version, just the RoboTreaty version. It's in the link robomongo.org/downloads, and you wanna just go ahead and click on this download RoboTreaty link. Okay, which will you download that. Don't download the studio, that's the paid version. Download the RoboTreaty. Okay, finally, if you have all set, I also want to say, if you're using some of the text editor like Atom or I don't know, Vim, it's completely fine. But in this video, I'm going to use Visual Studio Code. That's what I prefer, and that's what I'm going to use. And if you want to use something else, that's completely fine. You can get started. Okay, this is the introduction. Make sure you have all of these technologies installed. I will also have a link in the video that shows you how to install all of this. If you have all of this installed, you're good to go. Now we're going to go ahead and jump in and see and set up our own folder from scratch, so then we can go ahead and build our API from scratch. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. So if you see, I have basically, let me just get rid of this right now. So I have basically created a simple folder. So some way it's installed. I'm gonna go ahead and delete this. But yeah, so we have a very simple folder, a very empty folder. We have nothing installed, so we're gonna go ahead and install everything from scratch. Okay, so the first thing that you're gonna do after you have everything installed, go ahead and say npm init, okay, /y. And that's going to install a package of JSON, so you can manage your dependencies right here. But what I really like to do is that I always have a package.json file with me, which I will always use to any kind of a backend projects. So I'm going to go ahead and put my package.json file, which I will also leave that in the description. I'm going to replace this with this, and I'm going to change the name to authentication. Now you don't need to do this. I'm just giving you this file, so then you don't need to go ahead and install everything. You just need to go ahead and say npm install, which will install all of these dependencies you need. Some of them we are not going to use, like we are not going to use Stripe, we are not going to use we're not going to use Morgan, we're not going to use Formidable or Lodash, nothing like that, but we're only going to be using some of them. So I'm going to get rid of what are the things that we don't need. Stripe, we don't need it. Nodebound, yes, we don't need Morgan, we need Mongoose, we don't need Lodash, we don't need I don't know why is that, but I want to get rid of that. And we also don't need Formidable, and we're all set. These are the dependencies you want to need: body parser, cookie parser, cost.env, express, JWT, and all of this stuff. So you can also go ahead and manually do it. Just copy the name and paste it and install. But I'm just going to go ahead and leave this in the description. At the same time, click on npm install. So it's going to install all the dependencies that we need for this project. Okay, so this will go ahead and install all the dependencies, and we'll see. It shouldn't take much time, so let's just wait until it just installs all the dependencies. Okay, and in the meantime, I just wanted to say, make sure you also have downloaded Visual Studio Code or any of the text editor, and then you also have Postman opened up right here. So make sure you also take just download all of these dependencies so we can easily get started. Okay, all right, it's taking some while, so let's just wait until it finishes off. Shouldn't take much time. So let's wait. By the way, guys, if you have any questions, you have any errors while we build this stuff, then definitely go ahead and leave it in the description, because I would always go ahead and check if you have any questions or any errors, I will pretty much get back to you. So yeah, just if you have any errors in your installing a package or something like that, then just go ahead and leave it in the description. Alright guys, so this is done. We have already installed all the packages that we need, so we're not going to go ahead and always use the terminal. Now we are all good and set. I'm going to clear the terminal and let's get started. Now we have all the dependencies installed, and alright, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. Okay, and stuff, guys. So first thing that we need to do when we always create a authentication or any MERN stack project, we want three stuff created. Okay, so the first one we need creators. We always need a model, so I'm going to go ahead and create a model folder. And the second one we always need a root. Okay, where the roots are going to come from, or where we need. Basically I will explain every single thing, but just create all of these folders, models, roots, and then we're going to go ahead and say controllers. Okay, so now we are all set, and we are also going to create one app.js file. Okay, right here, app.js. You can also call it index.js. I'm going to go ahead and create my main file called app.js. Okay, cool. All right, guys. So the first thing that I am going to go ahead and do is to go ahead and create a simple server running. So we know just a simple boilerplate server. You need to get it. You need to have it for your authentication or any kind of the MERN application to work. Okay. So let's go ahead and create our own server. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to import some of the basic stuff we need. So we're going to say const mongoose is equals to, we're going to require mongoose. So let's go ahead and say we need to require mongoose. Okay. All right, and we also need express. So I'm going to say const express is equals to require, and let's say express. Okay, and we also need to initialize our app. So now how we do this is basically say const app is equals to express, and we basically initialize the express, which will be equals to this app. Okay, this is what the basic things you need just to get started, but we also need some other dependencies. Okay, so the second dependency or the second thing that we need, I mean just to import stuff, we need to get body parser. So let's go ahead and say body parser. Now this will help you to parse your body and work with the whole REST API. So I'm going to go ahead and say require, and let's say I want to require this from body parser. So let's just say, oops, let's save it, say auto import that. Okay, body parser, and we also need something called cookie parser. So this is the boiler template that we're going to do, and you can just also copy and paste it, that which I normally do. But anyway, I want to type this out because a lot of beginners might be learning and they shouldn't be lost on what I do. Okay, so cookie parser is also what we need, and we also need cost. Okay, cost is basically if you were hosting this application somewhere, and if you have some error, it will give you some errors if you're not running in some sort of a setting. I don't know how to explain that properly, but you need to get this course middleware. We call this middlewares, okay? And I will also explain what is a middleware, everything, but just do the setup with me. As we move along, you will learn all of those. Alright guys, we have everything set, and now I'm going to go ahead and connect my MongoDB DB connection. So when I say DB connection, I want to establish a connection right in the first place. So let's just go ahead and create a database connection. So we have Mongoose, right? I'm going to say mongoose.connect. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to create in the first place a env file. So when I host it, I can securely transfer the data between the files. So I'm just going to say .env, okay? And you also, if you download my package, we also have a package called .env. So we already have. So what you got to do is to just go ahead in your app.js and just import this one as well, okay? .env you want to do this in the old style, require .env.config, and you want to do this, okay? And in the env, what I am going to go ahead and do, I'm going to go ahead and create a basic we call it just a name called database. So I'm going to say database is actually equals to what my database has to be. So basically how your MongoDB RoboTreaty, if you open up RoboTreaty, let me go ahead and show you. I'll open up RoboTreaty and let me show you how this is going to look like, okay? So let me copy this and show you. Let me cancel this. It's in my other screen, or for a reason I cannot drag this to the next screen, but anyway, let me see. Okay, all right, let me open up RoboTreaty again. So give me a minute guys. So let's go open up RoboTreaty. And all right, so I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop it here. And if you see RoboTreaty is installed, and you got to create a connection. If you don't have, I already have it. So you see this new connection, I'm going to go ahead and connect to it, and you see this URL. You're going to make sure you're going to have, this is your database URL, okay? I'm going to connect it, and that is my URL. I would just going to go ahead and minimize that, but just to give you an idea, this is going to be your basic URL, which I'm going to go ahead and paste it, and which is already pasted. This is the URL, and after the slash, you want to make sure you specify which which is what's the name of your database, right? So I'm going to go ahead and say database is equals to authentication, okay? Authentication, and that's our database name, okay? Test authentication. We'll just have it authentication, okay? And now what we're going to do, right, we have this connect here. We are going to basically go ahead and connect to our database. So let's go ahead and say process .env, and now I'm going to get my database, okay, which I've already done. And now you need to pass some of the settings, okay? So we're going to just put a curly brackets. We're going to pass those settings as an object. You want to say use URL parser, which is equals to true, and use unified topology, and this is also should be equals to true. And then you're going to say use create index, and which is also going to be true. Okay, so these are the stuff that you need to know. And then this is also a chain, so you can go ahead and put a then there, and you can run a function just to make sure everything works perfectly fine. We can go ahead and console.log db is connected. Now I'm going to have this in caps, so it makes it's very easy to see if there's even errors in the terminal. And also I could have a catch if this has some errors. I can go ahead and just say console.log unable to connect to DB, which is equal to database. Okay, we successfully created the connection. And now we're going to go ahead and use some of the middlewares. Now don't worry why we use it. As we move on, I will go ahead and explain everything, but this is the pretty much hard process just to create the server, just a boilerplate. It's just tricky. I mean, it's just much heavier than what you do in sign up, but yeah, just you got to do this to make sure it works. Okay, so let's go ahead and say use middleware. Okay, we're going to use parsing. You can just say anything, but I'm going to call parsing middleware. Okay, so let's go parsing middleware, and let's say app.use. Okay, I'm going to use and and we wanna, no, not determine, we're gonna go ahead and use the body parser. So you're gonna initialize the function, but you cannot do it like that because you need to convert this to a JSON. So that's the main purpose. So you go ahead and say .json and convert it like that. And you want to say app.use, and then we're going to get a cookie parser. Okay, and let's go ahead and create it like that. We also need to initialize that, and app.use cause. Okay, so we are adding all of these settings to make sure everything in the application works without any errors. And body parser, it's used to, you know, convert all pass the body, whatever you put in a body in the postmon or anything like in the API itself. Cookie parser, it's going to pass the cookies, and cause, it's just for working in multiple devices, or it's just going to give you some bad errors. Okay, but you definitely can research if you want to get rid of that. All right, guys, so now let's go ahead and create a port. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say const port, okay, is equals to process. Now I can just go ahead and say port like that. I want to run this in port 8000. Okay, I can go ahead and say, but in this case, if I were to host this in a, you know, I don't know, like a Heroku or something like that, I don't want people to just get access to this port, right? I just don't want to do that. Or and also your port is also going to be different, okay, and not going to be 8000 in if you're hosted in somewhere. So what I'm going to go here and do, I'm going to I'm not going to go ahead and create it right here because I'm not going to host this application, but I will always feel free to do a check. So what I'm going to do a check is I want to say process.env, okay, and dot port, okay. And this is going to give me an error because this doesn't exist for now as we're testing it in a local machine. So if this is not available, then go ahead and give this 8000 port, and this will perfectly work. This is the best way to do it. Okay, just make sure you do it. And then you want to say starting a server. So when I just go ahead and listen to a server, and you've passed all of these settings, we have connected it, we have done everything. Now we're going to go ahead and start the server. App.listen. Okay, and first parameter, you want to pass the port number, which is going to be 8000 in our case, and then we're going to go ahead and run a function. Okay, let's go ahead and run a function, and console.log, I'm going to say app is running, right? App is running, so make sure it's, you know, we know that at. Now we can use our curly braces like that and just to put in the number, so we know the app is running in whatever port number. Okay, so we just got to come here and change the port number. Everything will be changed and dynamically rendered. All right, guys, so that's done. And also the one very important thing you want to do, you also want to make sure you go to the terminal. Okay, and I'm going to make it a lot bigger so you can see. You want to go to the terminal, and what you got to do if you're on a Windows or Mac, it doesn't matter. Before you do anything, just go ahead and run Mongo. And I will also leave a link which will show you the best installation process to everything. He'll also explain this, but I'm just saying before you get started, you want to just type Mongo, and you should see this kind of a terminal, some running sort of a terminal. Okay, in Mac this is what you have to see. In Windows you pretty much have to see this one. Anyway, I'm going to minimize this. Don't get rid of this. You need your Mongo DB to run. Okay. All right, so we have done that, and let's go and see whether a server would run. So I can just go and say npm start. It's just because if you see the package.json, I have already, you know, pre-configured nodemon, and so I'm saying app.js. So npm start is actually equals just basically equals to what we are gonna, like, npm start is just equals to just doing nodemon and app.js, so we have our reloading and stuff like that. Okay, so I'm just gonna say npm start and like that, and hopefully there shouldn't be any errors, I hope, and that's good. Our app is running at port 8000 and our database is successfully connected. Okay, this is what we need. And also one quick thing I want to mention, if you already have started your terminal, if your server is actually running, and then if you made any changes to your env or created an env, this is not gonna take that into consideration. So you gotta just come out of the terminal, okay, you know, and then you gotta go ahead and start it again to actually work. All right, guys, this is I guess it was pretty much long, around 15 minutes of a process to just get a boilerplate ready. It's because anyway you have to put this amount of time just to get a boilerplate ready, but once that's done, we can go ahead and move further with most of the easy stuff. Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and explain you each and every steps that we're gonna do right now to go ahead and create your sign up in the first place. Okay, so as I told you, make sure you have controllers, models, and roots. And now let's go ahead and create a first root. We are going to define the model. What is a model? Model is something we say. Now just forget about the roots and stuff, I will explain. But now what is a model? We're going to create a user model. Model, guys, is something that shows you that the description or how a user should be in your database. We want to define how your user should he has an info, should he have an email, should he have a password, something like that. So let's go ahead and create a file called models, and I'm going to call it user.js. okay, and let's go ahead and create a model first. That's the best thing to do. Okay, so I'm going to go to the model user.js, and now we need a couple of chunks straight. So first we need to do is we're going to see const or you can say anything. I'm just going to say const equals to const mongoose, and we're going to go ahead and require mongoose. Okay, we need to go ahead and require mongoose. And then what we need to do, guys, we need to go ahead and create a schema. So I'm going to go ahead and say const, okay, I'm going to say user schema, and you want to say user schema is equals to new mongoose dot schema. Okay, and then we want to go ahead and pass an object, and this object is going to have a couple of objects. So I'm going to say name, and the name is going to have a actually this is not the way to do it. So what we're going to do right now, we've already defined the object here. I'm going to say name, and name is one of the objects there, and now I have to specify type to it, and the type is going to be the name. I need the user to have a name, so I'm going to go ahead and say the user's name should be a type of a string. And is it required? Yes, I need the user to have that, right? I need the user to have its name, so I'm going to say required is equals to true, and only by submitting the name, the required stuff, then only your data will be saved in the MongoDB, or it will be blocked. Okay, and we're going to say max length, we can give 32 characters, so which is a pretty big length, and we just want to trim it. Okay, so now trim is basically going to sort of trim out the not needed as a trim set. It's just going to trim out some of the properties or some unneeded spaces and stuff like that, so we save amount of spaces in our database. Okay, so now name is done, and now what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and create our last name. Okay, we also need the last name from the user, but that's not required as much. If he wants that, he can put it, or we can leave it as empty. It's not a must to us right now. So type is equals to be obviously string. Okay, and then I'm going to say the maximum length of the the last name is actually going to be 32. Okay, we want to do that. And yes, I'm going to say trim, yes, true, just get rid of any unneeded stuff. So I want to say trim is equals to true. And now we need an email. Okay, and the email, we're going to go ahead and say yes, we need a type of string. Email is a type of a string. Okay, let's go ahead and say email is a type of a string, and let's go ahead and say maximum length is actually going to be they can input any much of email if their email is pretty long, so we're not going to block them into that. I'm going to go ahead and say trim, yes, go ahead and trim this like that, which we already need. Okay, is it required? Yes, it is required, so let's go say required, and let's say required is equals to true. I'm sorry for the bad noise, guys. And now I want to say unique. Yes, I want this to be unique. Okay, email has to be unique. So is it unique? Yes, this is true. And you can also not have that, that's also fine. But okay, so now if I go ahead, we also need one other stuff. We also need the we basically need the password. So we need to save the password not just by its own name, we need to save the password in an encrypted format. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do this, how to set up the encrypted password in a minute. Alright guys, so we have email is equals to true, and now what we need to set right now, we are going to go ahead and create a very simple method that will help us to encrypt the password. You always need to encrypt the password before we store it into our database. Okay, that's very important. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, we have something called salt that will help us to do it. But so let me go ahead and define that right here. It's also going to be in our database, what do you call the model. So I'm going to say salt, and this is equals to string. Okay, we want to go ahead and say, I want to put a comma there, don't miss that. And now let's also going to go ahead and put a timestamp. We need to know when the user was created, right? So not right here, I want to go ahead, put the timestamp right above this one. When this finishes, I'm going to go ahead and say we also need a timestamp. So let's go ahead and say timestamp is equals to true. Okay, so let's go ahead and say timestamp is equals to true or not here. So let's come back here. Right here we will need to go ahead and say timestamp is equals to true. Okay, so just go ahead and put an object, make sure it's an object. So timestamp is equals to true. All right, that's what you need to do. And now we also have pretty much the Mongoose model pretty much set up. Okay, now we need to just write a simple method that will go ahead and encrypt our password. So let's go ahead and write that method. So you notice we have already done this schema here. We can just apply a lot of methods into that. So I'm going to say user.schema, and what that's going to do, I'm going to create a virtual password. Okay, now the password is not, I'm not going to create password like this. Okay, I'm not going to create like that and add it. Okay, I'm going to create this virtually, and I'm going to get that password which is submitted and then transfer it to a variable which I will be creating soon. Okay, anywhere here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and first of all create a variable called encrypt password. So I'm going to say encrypt. I'm going to say encrypt password. So you can call it anything here. I'm just going to call it encrypt password here. Okay, like that, and I'm going to put that as a object. Okay, and this encrypt password will have a couple of stuff. One, this is going to be a string, right? We need this to be a type of a string. Good. And now we also need to trim this one. Okay, and simple as that. Oh no, we don't need to trim this down. We need to put it required. We need the password. But this encrypt password is going to be populated or put in by a virtual password which we are going to create, a virtual element we could call it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. Okay, you see this code right here. We have this user schema. I'm going to go ahead and say user schema dot virtual. Okay, and I want to say, oh hello user schema, go ahead and create something called virtual. Okay, you don't need to go ahead and store it completely in the Mongoose. You don't need to look for it. Go ahead and create something virtual. Okay, and then we are going to have some setters and getters, which is going to do a couple of functions. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and create that. So I'm going to say, I'm going to come back down here. So you can do this like that, or you can also just chain it with this. I'm going to go ahead and put an enter and put a tab and say get. I need a getter, which is I need a setter first of all to do a couple of stuff, and that's going to be a function. Okay, and then I also need I need a function. All right, but the function should be right here. So I'm just going to call it a function which will take some properties and then do, and you can also have arrow functions here. So because it's the old style way, I prefer it had it, but anyway, we're going to have it just like that function. And we also want to say dot get. Okay, and we're going to have a function here as well. Just for now, don't care about what we're going to do with this function. Just think that we're going to set something passing into this function, and we're going to get something passing into this function. Okay, and this virtual password is going to take in like that, and set and get is going to do a couple of functions. Now let's go ahead and create a method. So you have this user schema, and this is not part of this function, so we can go ahead, okay, put it like that, and this is actually part of this one. So we have a getters and setters. So you see this user schema right above right here, we have it. I'm going to pass in on some of the methods we need. I'm going to say dot methods, okay, is equals to because it has to be plural, because I'm going to pass a lot of methods, not just one. Okay, I mean just two, so bear with me. We're going to have two methods, guys. One is the name of that method is going to be authenticate. Okay, very simple. Go ahead and say authenticate. What is this going to do? It's going to get a function. Okay, and what will this get? We don't know. We will do it soon, but we don't know. But we're gonna go ahead and return this. Okay, what we gotta return? We need to return some secure password. Okay, some sort of a secure file. So let me go ahead and do it. This function is going to take in a plain password. Now this plain password is going to be coming from our database, right? So now my database, from what we are going to send it will be, don't worry about that, but we are going to send some way we're going to send this plain password. Okay, so it's going to take in a plain password, and I'm going to say this dot secure password, which we didn't still create, which will go ahead and do that, but just go ahead and say secure password, and the secure password will get the plain password, and this will just always and always just matches dot encrypt password. Okay, now don't worry about this. I'm putting this because it has to work properly, but you get the idea, right? You guys gonna get this secure password, and it's gonna, this secure password is going to have a function. Now we're going to create this secure password in a minute. What will that secure password do? It will go ahead and create an encrypted password of your password. Okay, you have authenticate done, and that's just it, right? You just have to, even if you don't understand 20%, 30%, that's more than enough, because this is the only thing that you need to just copy from the documentation and sort of do it. That's very simple. Okay, and now let's go ahead and create this secure password. So let's go ahead and say secure password. Okay, and that is a function. Okay, I'm going to say that is a function. As I told you, it will take a plain password. Okay, now you get it. We are going to get this plain password, and by the way, you need a command there. You also need to get the plain password, and then you're going to check if the plain password is not, it's there. If you don't have a password, if you by the way, if we had some error, we didn't do any validation, of we are passing nothing, then this is not going to go ahead and do it, because if it doesn't have nothing, no way, or no sense of going it for the next part. Okay, because it has nothing. But in case if it has something, then we can go ahead and try something. Okay, and if it has some errors, we can go ahead and catch something, right? So let's go ahead and first try something. What you need to do, you need to first of all return something, and that's what we call crypto. And crypto, just to give an understanding, it's actually a part of a hashing method that will basically do some sort of hashing. That's it. Even I don't understand that much, but that's just, it's a very complicated topic. But that would just gonna hash your password. It's gonna add some variables, it's gonna add some stuff and mix your password, and it's gonna give it in an encrypted way where no one can decrypt it except us, who is going to just have this authenticated method. Okay, so let's go and get this crypto, which I've already imported that right here. Okay, crypto, require crypto, and I'm going to say require, and let's say create HMAC. Okay, and now we want to have it as SHA-256. Okay, now don't care about this. This is basically you got to do this. This is in the documentation. I will leave the link for the documentation, but you got to do this. You just get this crypto, and you're gonna add this by create HMAC in this way. You can just have any other way, but SHA is okay. And then you have to say this dot salt. Okay, which we really defined it right here. It's just a string over there. Okay, all right. And then even if you don't get it, it's already fine. You can just copy and paste it, which I will have the code as well, so no issues. So I'm gonna go ahead and update. Now we're gonna have this some sort of a password. I'm going to update with this with my plain password. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and digest with hex, which is going to be an hexadecimal variable. I believe it's going to create some sort of a way. It's this whole line is going to go ahead and create some sort of a mix in your password and create an encrypted password. That's it. Okay, that's it. That's simply it. And then if it has any errors, it makes any errors, you can get access to the error, and then you can go ahead and return the nothing. Or if you want, you can also return the error. It's more probably we're not going to get any error. We anyway just having it. Okay, now we have the secure password and authenticate methods, and now you can use it in any part of your functions. Okay, now you saw, let's go ahead. It's gonna, now this stuff just gets some stuff. It's gonna take in something and return something, take in something and return something. So now if you see set, which we already created a password, so MongoDB is going to create a virtual password and use some of the methods. So first method that it's going to use, it's go ahead and take the password. Okay, now this is the password which is going to be submitted by the user, and don't care where it's going to come on, how it's going to get connected. Don't worry, we will do it. Just it's going to get this password only. We will pass it in a different function. Okay, so the first thing that you got to go ahead and do, you need to make sure a differentiation. You just to make sure you don't confuse yourself, I'm going to go ahead and say password like that. Okay, so I normally do this. You can also, if you want, you can do it, or you can also have a different name. Okay, and now I'm going to map this up to this password. Okay, and now I'm going to get the salt. Okay, and now you get it. Now where does this salt come from? Now we're creating the salt, and now from this one this is coming from. Okay, we're gonna pass it in that way, and we want to go ahead and we want to get some unique ID. Now you can also use math.random, but in this case I'm going to use a UUID version 1, which we have already installed. So let's go say we have salt. Right now what we can use with the salt, you can create a UUID. Right, I'm going to say UUID and initialize that, which is going to create some automatic ID. And now I'm going to say encrypted password. Right now, this is a very important thing. Encrypted password is equals to this dot secure. What do you want to pass? Simple, just a password. So this password, whatever the user is going to pass, it's going to come over to this secure password, get in past it like that. If the password has nothing, it's not going to do nothing. But if this password had some stuff, it's going to go here, create some sort of a digest, something. It's just going to read something. Don't care about that, but it's going to just create an encrypted password, and it's going to return it, and that's it. It's a lot, but yeah, that's it. And now you also make sure you just have this dot here, so make sure it doesn't give any error. So it's this dot, this, and this dot. Okay, then we also have this dot here. That's good. Okay, and now in the get function, it is also going to get nothing, so because we are just getting it, so return this. So it's always good like that, and say dot password. Okay, that's it, guys. That's it just for the user authentication. We have everything set. I mean, not that's it. We want to do a lot of stuff, but just for the Mongoose model, this is it. We have everything set it up, and you know, so we're securing the password, we're getting the functions, we're creating the methods, we have secure password, we have a function to get the plain password, which will return a couple of stuff, and then we're also creating virtual password, and we're getting a function, and we're setting a function, and that's good, and that's what we need. And now at last, just go ahead and export this. So let's get say module, not mouse event, let's get module dot exports, okay, is equals to mongoose dot model. Okay, let's go say model, and now you want to call this whatever you want. Okay, how are you going to use it? I can call it user by me, user by, like anything. You can call it as any name, and this name is going to be equals to what you're going to call in this schema. So this user schema is going to be equals to this. So with this username, you can call it in any of the function. Just import this and call it user, and it will completely give you the access to the model. All right, I hope you understand this section. Now let's jump to the next section, and I hope everything should be good. Even if we have any error, we can come back and look on it, what's the error, and just take care of that. But for now, I guess this is all right and cool. We have done everything we need. We've exported that, and let's go ahead and grade up the model file. Now let's come back to app.js, and now we're gonna go ahead and basically create a root. Okay, so now I'm going to import a root. Now you can do it in any way. I'm going to come right here before the under the middleware. So make sure every middleware setting is passed, and then you have it. And I'm going to say import roots. Okay, so I'm going to import a root. I'm going to say app.use, and this root is just going to be called /API. You can call it anything. Okay, and I'm going to have everything cleaned up. So I'm going to say I'm going to call it user roots here. Okay, let's call it roots. It doesn't matter. Okay, so okay, you can call it user roots. Okay, cool, that's what we have. Okay, so just don't get mind blown. Why are we doing so much? Now you need, these are boiler template like stuff which you can just copy and paste it, but I anyway wanted to go in this video so you get a good and a better understanding. Okay, so you want to make sure you do it. And user routes, and where is this user routes? Now we are going to go ahead and create it, so don't worry about it. And then I need to import. Now basically we are using the routes, I'm sorry about that. And now it is going to give you an error here in the terminal because this user route is not defined. So we need to go ahead and import the routes. Okay, and how are we going to import the routes? It's very simple. You want to go ahead and say const. Okay, you say user routes, not user routes is equals to require. And now we're going to go ahead and create a route here, and this is what we're going to specify. I'm going to go ahead and say user.js. Okay, and this is the route which we are going to import, and you just have to say /. Let me come in here, / require / indicate a string, and you need to say /, and you want to go inside the roots, okay, roots, and then we're going to go inside user. So now if you see, the error is still there because we're not returning anything, and we have some errors there as well. We have nothing, it's just a plain file. but this is the things that you need to do. You need to go ahead and import your root, and then just call it anything. You can call it anything here, sign up or sign. I'm just going to say /API, and I'm going to have more roots here, or which will make sense once I do it. Now let's go ahead and just create a simple boiler template that we need for our roots to work. So first, obviously, we're gonna go ahead and say const express is equals to require, and I'm gonna require express, okay? And now I'm going to need the router, right? So I just messed up in the first one, so I just deleted it and did it again. So if you just watched it without skipping, so I'm going to go ahead and say const router, and just go ahead and initialize express.router. That is a module, or whatever you're going to call the router from express, and then initialize it like that. And you can't just wait like that. You need to make sure you always export this, okay? And like that. And what you need to export, you need to export the router. And now if you see your terminal, there is no error. I can show you. Let's clear it up like that, okay? And let's run npm start, and there should be no errors because we are actually exporting the router. Okay, so now let's go ahead and successfully we have completed creating our models and all of the very repetitive sort of boiler template. Now you can just copy and paste this stuff, which is really I guess a better way if you're not a beginner. But now we're going to go ahead and create our first route, which is going to be sign up. Okay, I'm very interested. I hope you guys are also interested. So let's go ahead and create it. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to go ahead and do is to create a router. Okay, so a route, basically I'm going to say a router, okay, dot, and signing up. What does it mean? It's just gonna say save to the database. So it's going to be a post method, and then you want to specify which URL you want to hit to do that function. I'm going to say very simple sign up. Okay, now this is why I had this /API here. So at the end, when the user has to hit state, it's gonna you can do this function here itself, guys. You can go ahead and run the function here, but I'm not gonna do it because it's a very bad practice. So by the end, you see this API here. I just want to show you here. So I'll just show you here. At the end, the URL is actually going, now this is different, okay? The URL, this one, focus on this. The URL is going to be something, you know, something like that. Localhost, I'm sorry about that. It's going to be localhost, it's a local host, maybe for 5,000 or something like that. It's going to be API, and it's going to be sign up. I hope you get it. Okay, so that's what we say. We give you a main route to it, and we call some of the methods a lot. Now this can have a couple of them, which you can also have sign in. So it's going to be sign in, something like that. Now just for, you know, the good practice, we do it, and it's always better if you also follow this. Okay, good. Now we're gonna go ahead and create the sign up. So we did this route. So we say routed or post sign up. And what do we want to run? We can go ahead and run a function, right? When a user hits this route, we can go ahead and run a function. But this is also not a good practice to do it. So that's what we always suggest, to go ahead and say sign. Oops, I forgot a bracket. Okay, so I will go ahead and create a function itself called sign up. Okay, and where is this function going to come? It is going to come from our controllers. Okay, it's just for best purposes we do. Also, we're gonna have all the code in just one single file, which is very bad. So we shouldn't do that, right? So we're gonna go ahead in the controller. Okay, now just to explain, now we have a routed or post. Whenever user hits this endpoint, it's gonna go ahead and sign up a user. Now let's go ahead and create this sign up route. Let's go to let's close our models. Let's go to controller, and it's always the best practice to have user.js for everything. I'm going to have it like that. Okay, so as we have done the user routes, we are going to gonna create our controller. So first we have to import our user model, which we have designed. So I'm going to go ahead to the user.js controller, and I'm going to import that. Okay, so I'm going to say const and a capital user. You don't need to call it with a capital, but I'm going to call it as a capital because we'll be differentiating that. And you want to say require, and where do you want to require? I want to go back 2 times back, go to models, and I have a user.js. Okay, I'm going to go inside that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and say exports. I'm going to say exports, and then I'm going to say export sign up. Okay, I'm going to say export sign up, And now this is going to be a function, so let's go ahead and just make it as the normal function. And I'm going to differentiate, I'm going to put some spaces there, and make sure the name should be same. We haven't of course imported it, but I'm just saying the name should be the same. And now this always gives us two stuffs. We need to get the request and we need to get the response. So request is something that we send and the response is something that we receive. Okay, so the first thing that you got to do is to get the data what has been passed by the user. Okay, so the user will be passing that in the body. So how we can grab the body, so whatever we pass is always in that request. So what we are going to do is going to say, I'm going to say const, and I'm going to create a user here, and user is equals to request dot body. And do you think this is right? This is completely not right. It's because we're gonna, yes, it is coming from request of body, but what do you want to create? How do you want to create a user? So that's what we actually Control X cut it, and we say new of this user. So this user is actually coming from the model right here. So we're going to create a new user of this model with all of that model specified, and now inside that we are going to pass the request.body. And now whatever data we have inside the body is going to go ahead and populate with the user and create a new user for us. Okay, and now if your user is ready, now you can go ahead and say user.save. Okay, now that's a function, and now always this save function and all, like any other change function, returns us two stuff. It returns the error, okay, and it returns the user. And by chance this user is actually not this variable. Okay, now okay, so I just wanted to specify that. And also I guess we have an error, so we have to put like that, and you want to also make another braces, and inside that you got to do it. Okay, and we're going to run the function inside save. And by the way, this user is not this user. Okay, you can call this user new user also. Okay, this is just something that the save function returns as a second parameter, and this is not something which is this constant variable. No, this is a different one. Okay, but we can call the same name, it doesn't matter. Okay, and now first let's check for the error. If there's an error, if the error exists, then we want to go return. You want to say response is something that we send. You can also go ahead and just say response.json, and you can tell the user that there is an error like this, and you don't need to specify error. You can say message, you can say Raj, you can say Danish, you can say anything right here. Okay, and this will be the response given to the user. I'm just gonna be always the best in the best practice. So let's go say unable to add user. But the best way we can also do is to also send the status code with it. Okay, so right now you can say before rest.json, you can say rest.status code. Okay, you can say rest.status, and the status we send it as 4000, and then you also send the JSON. So you send the status and you also send the JSON. Okay, very easy. And this is what we just need, and we for now, and we can just go export default. And we can go, no, we don't need to export default. I'm sorry about that. We're already signing up, exporting that, so we not need to export that. Okay, okay. So if there is an error, okay, any code we have here is not gonna work because it's gonna return an error. It's gonna pause, and the function is just gonna stop from there. Okay, so we don't need an else statement here. What we need, if there is no error, is we need to be able to respond. We need to be able to send a message to the user saying JSON.json, and the JSON we can send just the user like that. Okay, but I don't want to send the user just like that. I want to send the message. Okay, I want to send the message saying it is success. Okay, I want to tell the user this has been a success. Okay, and then I need to just send the user. Okay, that's it. So we will send the message saying success, and we are also sending the whole user. So now with that user, they can confirm, okay, we have this user. They can store it in any kind of a Redux or something like that, but we're not going to go into that, but just saying that you can use that. All right, now sign up is done. I hope everything is perfect. So I'm going to go to user.js roots, and I can do auto import here. So if I click enter, it's going to auto import that to me. Cool. So root.post /signup and see sign up, and it's gonna work right here. This is the function. You can also copy the function and write it here, but for we can have multiple functions in one folder, and that's what it's the best practice. That's what we do it. Okay, now we're done with that. Now let's go ahead and check our app.js, make sure everything is here. And okay, app.use/API user roots, and where's the user roots? User root is here /signup. So now it's a time to go ahead and test it with Postman. Okay, And now I also would say in the first of the video I went over what are the stuff you need. If you have skipped it, then make sure you watch it from first. So what stuff I'll show you what are the dependencies or what are the technologies you want to need. Okay. All right. So I also told you to install Postman. Right now we're going to use Postman. Right. You see this is Postman. You can make API requests with this. So first you can just go ahead and you can click on, I guess, new, and you can also create a basic request. But let's go ahead and create a folder for it. If you want to test in the future, we want to be able to like save it as a group. I'm going to go to create a collection. Now you don't need to do it, but if just for good purposes, I'm going to go ahead and create a collection. So collection name is going to be authorization. Okay, I'm just going to call it authorization, and I'm going to say create. Okay, and now I'm going to click on that and click on this add request, or you can click on this and say add request. You can add like that. And now let's go ahead and add sign up. Now first request we're going to do is to go ahead and do a sign up request. That's what you need to do, and you're going to save it in authorization. Let's go save it in authorization. Now click on that. It's going to be a simple which has nothing, so we're going to use this to test it. So the first thing that I want you to see, now go to the API again and check what is this, what is that. It's going to be a post route. So come here in the Postman, let's go and put it to post, and let's go ahead and check the URL. And what is the URL going to be? It is going to be a port 8000, I believe. Okay, there is an error. I failed to notice that trim is equals to trim. Okay, in user.js I've made some error. By chance, I don't know why I made it, but let's see. Okay, trim is equals to true. Trim is equals to true. Okay, so which line is that? Line number 19. Let's see. Okay, we have here, see this email. We've set this to trim. No, that's wrong. We want to say to trim is equals to true. Right. And I'll come back and see, all right, a port is running. That's good. And I just want to clear it and just start the port again, and just so we don't have any errors. All right, our port is done. And now let's go for the user.js, and we want to get the URL. Now what's the URL going to be? It is going to be in the port 8000. So let's go ahead and type it right here. So let's say HTTPS. I have some of the things made here. So you see HTTP, okay, and put a colon here and say // local host, okay, /, and now it is going to be localhost. I can just get one of them here. It's just the same. So http/login localhost 8000, and now it's going to be API in our case because we've already done it to API. If you check the chapter.js and app.js, it's going to be /API, and our sign up route inside the controller, inside the routes, it's going to be /signup. So we need to hit that endpoint. Okay, so I'm going to delete everything and make sure it is localhost API /sign up. Okay. All right, cool. Now we have sign up. So now you also have the link. You have a post request. Now come for the headers, for the header, and then go to key and say content type. And the content type you have to specify is application JSON, right? You want to specify it like that. And then now the logic actually comes here. And if you go to the sign up route here, you see this request.body. So this is how I told you we pass in the username, email, and password. But how do we actually do it in Postman? It's pretty simple. You want to click on this body, and this is how we do it in a React or HTML, CSS, or just basic JavaScript. This is how we do it, right? So it's going to be an object. An object, we're going to pass the name, right? And the name is required. So let's go test name, okay? And second one we need to pass is the email. Email is required, and let's go say test@test.com. And we're going to go ahead and say the password. Okay, let's go ahead and say the password. And the password should be like this. And the password is equals to be test1234. Okay, this is what. And now let's go ahead and give a send request. It should it's sending the request. It would take some time, I guess. So, okay. It's a post request, HTTP 8000 API /signup, and okay, so it's actually searching the database, I guess. So I'll just check my terminal where I have my MongoDB is running, so it shouldn't load like this. So let's go ahead and see what is the error. Okay, so probably there should be some error in our sign up. So let's say request.body, So we get the request.body from the user. So we say new user, and we say user.save, and we save the, let's check whether it's still okay. It's still doing that. So let's say user.save and save error the user. And now if there is an error, go ahead, do this. If there is no error, go ahead. Okay, now this is the main point that I always make. I just put rest.json, but actually why is it loading is it has already fetched it, but I'm not returning it, right? That's the error. You got to go ahead and return this. You can't just say it like that. So you got to go ahead and return this and now come back. Okay, now it's hanged up because we have made some changes. Let's go check everything is good. Now let's go ahead and create send, and pretty much it should give me, it should not give me an error. It shouldn't do this. Alright guys, so the error that I actually found is that I forgot to initialize this cause. Okay, you should have also made this mistake. So if you just made that mistake, go ahead and put a function, because you need to initialize this cause. You can just not have it like that. Okay, so now let's save it and let's go ahead and, you know, DB is connected. Make sure you connect that, and let's go ahead and make sure it's a post request, and you have the link. Header is set to content type, application JSON, body with testing name, email, password. Let's go ahead and send the request, and there we go. We've successfully sent it, and that's what we're getting, the ID, and we're getting the test name, and we're getting the email, and we're getting the salt. We're also getting the encrypted password, right? So authorize that, we have to decrypt that. We have already done the function for it as well, so that's also good. And you see we have created that and all of the stuff. Okay, don't worry about signing in for now. If you see, we have already just signed up the user. So let's actually go ahead and check whether we have all actually signed up. You can open up your robot treaty, create a connection, and now if I go ahead and refresh that, you can see this authentication here, right? I'm going to go to authentication. I'm going to go to users, and if you see, I have one user. I'm going to go ahead and see, there we go. We have test name, we have test at test2.com, and we also have the created date, updated then, and all of that. Okay, so which is really good. So now let's go ahead and send a request again, and let's see whether the user is going to be saved again to the database. So let's go ahead and say save, and it's going to say unable to add a user. You know why? We are trying, you know, we are actually being very efficient using this in our model. And if you see in our model, we set email and we have set unique is equals to true. So before it's gonna save it, it's going to go ahead and check whether the email is already in the database. So if it's already in the database, is going to give you an error saying unable to add user. So let's go ahead and test like test 3 there. Okay, and let's say send, and if you see, all right, now we've got the response, and if the response is actually the user who is being created. So we can go ahead and go to robot treaty, and let's go ahead and do a refresh. Command R to do refresh, and if you see, we have the second user having the test name, test tree. And in Mac, if you want to edit that, you can just right click on it, edit document, and you can edit it right there, but we're not going to do it. But just cancel like that, we can do it. Okay, and one cool thing that I want to do, another cool thing though, we need to just add it. So we're only sending the user, right? What if you can also send the message with that? We can do that. So let's go send an object. We're gonna call, I'm gonna call this a message, and you can call it anything, like even your name, it's a matter, but I'm just gonna say success. Okay, and now with the success message, I'm going to pass the user. So now let's go ahead and test it out. If I send, it will be unable to create the user. So let's go ahead and create test 4 and now send. And now if you see, we're getting a message of success, and we're also getting the whole user. So with this user, you can make any changes in the front end. But in case I hope you get what I'm trying to do. Okay. Alright, now you can go ahead and just save it, so it's always in your collection. So and whenever you want, you can go ahead and test it. Okay. Alright, now we have successfully completed our sign up. And also the cool thing is, so because we had this in the model, we don't need to go ahead and loop through all the email whether that email existed before we created the sign up. It's the MongoDB is already doing that for us. So in this case, that's good. Okay, so now before when I move to sign in, I want to quickly show you how to do some validation before a user is actually submitted. So we're going to use a middleware, which a package by Express called Express Validator, which I'm going to show you in a minute. So you go to the roots right now, and now you see in the middle, whenever the user hits this endpoint, this sign-up is going to run. What if we can run something in the middle to validate it? Rather than leaving this validation to the front-end guy, why shouldn't we go ahead and do it? So we can do it, right? So I'll show you how to do it. So we're going to put some code in the middle, okay? We're going to put some code in the middle. So that's going to, first of all, without jumping to this one, it's going to check for the obvious validation after passing to this one. If there's any error, this is not going to happen, which is always good. So now let's go ahead and add our validation. It's very simple, guys. It's very, very simple. I'll show you how to add that validation. So what you got to do right now, you're going to go ahead to Express, you're going to go ahead right here and you're going to say const, okay? Put it like that and say, oops, const an object and is equals to require, and you want to say Express Validator, okay? Not JWT, it's validator. And now inside that we have two things. We have something called check, which helps us to check and validate. And second thing we have is validation result, okay? That's the results that is passed by check. But we're not going to use this validation result here. We'll be using it in the controller. But you make sure you have this check opened up, okay? And now we're going to go ahead, before the sign up runs, I want to go ahead and check whether some of the stuff is working. So how we do it, we put an array in the middle, and the array is going to be a lot of functions, and the functions are the validation. So go ahead and enter, and inside the array we're going to do a couple of stuff. First of all, you want to say check, and check what do you want to check, and go ahead to your model. You see we have something called name, so we want to check for that. So you just have to simply say name, right? And now how do you check? We want to say is length. I'm going to check in this way, is the length, and now you can pass so many properties to it. So you want to put an object. We're going to pass one property, which is minimum. Is the name minimum 3? Okay, we're going to check for that. If the name is not minimum 3, it's going to return an error. And what error does it going to return? That's something that we have to specify. So after this name, you have to specify the error. That's very simple. So just put a comma and just put another string and say name at least should be 3 characters, okay? So this is a must. You need to put it right here, saying that if this doesn't match this requirement, this error is gonna pop up, and this wouldn't even go for the next one. It wouldn't even go for the next check, okay? So now if this check passes, second one, go ahead. I'm gonna copy and paste it. I'm gonna call this. I'm going to say email, and now the error message I want to give, email should be valid, okay? That's the error message I want to give. And I'm not going to say is length. We already have a good property or a function that will do for us. It's is email, okay? So we want to say is email, okay, and put a function. We're not going to pass any properties, okay? And now if the email is not good, it's going to pop up this message and block it. And if the email is good, then we're going to go next and check for the password, right? So let's go ahead and say password, and let's go ahead and say password, the same thing as name, password at least should be 6 characters, okay? So make sure you go ahead and say the password should at least be 6 characters, and it's not going to be email. You guessed it, right? It's is length. So let's go send length, and let's say a minimum of 6, as we are already specifying that. All right, good job, guys. We've done this until the end. Now we're basically checking this in the middle of an array. Now in this array, it's gonna go ahead and check all of this. Even if the name is correct, even if the name is wrong, it's not even gonna go for the email. It's gonna block it right there itself. And if all of this passes, then go ahead to sign up. So we're gonna do a validation here itself. All right, so now let's go ahead. Now okay, we have already done that, but how are we gonna send this as a response? I have already told you that what we send is a request, and what the function sends is a response. So the function should send us, this is not a function, I mean this is an array of functions, but this is not a function that will return us something. How could we possibly grab the stuff that's been returned? So what I say, what I told you before, whatever is, let's get rid of the model, whatever is passed to this is called request. If there's an error here, it's going to pass as a request. So I guess you get the point. If the anything is being passed, it's going to be a request, whether by I'm going to do it, or any function is going to pass it to this function. It's a request. So what we can go ahead and do, we can go ahead and do a request over there itself. So how are we going to do? Make sure you go to the user.js, user.js, and how are we going to do right now is we're going to import that validation, the validation package that's already been built for us. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and import that. So let's go to user controllers and let's go ahead and import that. So I'm gonna say const. It's just as simple as that. Just require that, right? We're gonna require that, and we're gonna say dot slash. Oh no, it's not gonna be dot slash. It's going to be express. It's going to be express. Come on, auto generate that. Express Validator. Cool. And now what we need, we don't need the check. We've already done the check. We need the validation result. This is a package, or it's a function and package which helps us to grab the errors. Okay. So now, as I told before, once again, this error is being passed as a request. So we can straight away, before carrying this, we can go ahead and do the validation. Okay. So I'm gonna come up, leave some spaces, and now let's go ahead and say const errors. Now errors is going to be a array, okay, because yes, it will make sense once I do it. Errors is going to be an array, and the array is going to how this array is going to form is that this check is going, I told you, is going to send you something. So as anything sent to this function is a request, so we can put this validation result and pass that request right like that. Okay, you can pass it like that, and now you can check if the error, okay, if the errors, this one, the errors is empty. Okay, it's a function. So what does this mean, guys? If the errors is empty, means that there is no errors. So if the error is not empty, then it means that there is some errors. So now let's gonna go ahead, and now as there is some errors, we're gonna return, okay, a response. So that's something that we do. Always return a status code with it. Go say status code is 400, say .json, okay, and now we need to send the error that's provided by this check function. So how do we do that? It's pretty simple, guys. You can put it whatever name, you can put message. I'm going to call it error, okay, this one, you can call it anything. And now I'm going to go ahead and populate this area. I'm going to populate or just add those errors which is sent as a request here. So how could I do it? I can say errors dot array. As I told, it's an array, and now in the array I want to get the first error, because obviously if the first error is wrong, it's just not gonna come up, and the second error is going to be a first error, which is obviously in a computer sense is array with the index of 0. And then it has a property called message, right? Now you cannot say anything here. It's going to be dot message. So it's already built in. It's in the documentation. You call this one is actually passed as a message. So you need to say dot message. So this is actually not coming from anywhere. It's coming from this itself as it's a request, but you got to say dot message. Okay. So now if this error is there, it's going to put this message and the whole function is not going to run. The rest of it is not going to run. But if there is no errors, it's going to go ahead and create the user and check whether the user is there, and then it's going to do the next stuff. Now let's go ahead and check it out, and let's first get rid of the name, and let's go send the request. And if you see, name at least should be 3 characters, and this is the one that we included right here. Name at least should be 3 characters. Okay, length is 3. And now let's go ahead and remove the email. Okay, let's remove the email, but let's go ahead and say test. Okay, and now let's go ahead and send. See, email should be valid. Now we don't have a just email, so let's go ahead and put anything inside that. Send. Again, email should be valid, so we want to put a correct email. So let's say test@test.com. And now in the password also, let's get rid of the password. Let's send it, and see, password at least should be 6 characters. Okay, so I can go ahead and just say test 1 2 3 4. And now the cool thing you can see, I'm going to get rid of the email, I'm going to get rid of the name, I'm going to also get rid of the password. And now if I send, the first error is name at least should be first characters. Okay, it's gonna first check on this element, this body, this name data. If this is not there, it's not gonna even check this email. okay, because name is required in our database. It's going to check the first one. So then if I put some even if I put some let me just go ahead, some name over here. So let's say, let's populate this, and now let's get rid of the password. Now this is just for testing, right? I'm going to go and send it. It's saying email should be valid. So even if I have a password here, which means obviously the same error message is going to populate, but it's going to first, the idea is it's going to check for this, and if this is not there, then it's not going to even look at this. That's the basic idea. Okay, so let's put everything up and let's go and send, and there we go. We've created a new user saying success. We can go for the robot treaty, go ahead and do Command R, and if you see, we have 3 users created, and one with the email test@test.com, test@4.com, test4, test@test3.com, and we also have test@test.2.com. okay, so hope you loved this section, and in the next section let's go ahead and do the sign in. Hi everyone, welcome back to the next section where we are going to create the sign in route using Node.js, Express and MongoDB. Okay, so before I go ahead and jump onto the hands-on, I just want to go ahead and show you a little bit of documentation on the logic on how we are going to implement this sign in route. Okay, so if you don't know, we've already installed something called Express JWT. If you see your package or JSON, if you downloaded mine, you've already installed something called Express JWT. Okay, so what is Express JWT? It's basically a middleware that is used to validate JSON web tokens. JSON web token is also a module which I will go over. It's basically some sort of a token. If you have a basic understanding on token, it's more than enough. It's going to generate a token. And what it is going to do, it's going to install, or it's just going to create it and send it to you when you are signed in. Okay, when you sign in, it's going to authorize it and send that token. Okay, and now what we're going to do when basically sign in means we're going to get that token which is sent to us from Express JWT. We're going to get that token, and we are always going to use that, or we are always going to require the token whenever we perform anything on our websites. So, or any kind of app, anything on our websites. So for example, if you're doing a you have an admin page, and the admin page only will be accessed by the user, then if that's the case, if the user is only signed in, you will be able to redirect him or show him the admin page. At that case, you can always get that sign in authorization, and there's a couple of stuff, you'll store it in local storage and those stuff, but generally what this basically means, this will return you a JSON web token, and you will use that JSON web token to authorize every time the user makes a request. And I will show you a quick hands-on by the end of the video, but just after this explanation. But then I want you guys to just give an understanding how the logic is going to work. I will also say you just go ahead and spend some time right here in this link, Express JWT. Just spend some time, and also at this documentation, JWT introduction, where we'll also go ahead and implement JSON web tokens, which is also going to look like this. Okay, we'll implement this type and all of those, and it's going to be very easy. Just trust me, guys. And also we're going to implement something called and we will use this logic in something called bearer. So whenever we make that request, we always want the the headers to contain a bearer keyword and then the token that's generated by JWT in order for us to authorize the correct user. Okay, so as we move on, we will understand how this is going to work. So let's go and see on the hands-on on what we are going to do. Okay guys, so I'm going to open up, last time we did, previously we finished our sign up, which is in the roots, and if you use .js, we really did the sign up. So now we are going to go ahead and do the sign in. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say router, so router dot post, and this is also going to be sign in. So we are going to do something with the post method. So now I'm going to call this root sign dash sign in. Okay, and then I'm going to call a function called sign in, okay, which is not really made. We are not going to have any middlewares for now. We will have in the future, but for now this is it. Okay, now go ahead to your controllers, go to user.js, and now click double times to get the just to leave some space. And now let's go ahead and do the sign in route. Okay, so let's say obviously always exports dot sign in. Okay, and we get we have to make sure we have two stuff. What are those? One is the request, so we're going to get the request, we want to get the response, okay? And then I'm going to show you how to grab the email. First of all, as we saw in the Postman, which we were doing when we were doing other old testing, okay, on the sign up, we really saw how to set up let me get it right here, how to set up a body right here, okay? So like this same thing, except the name. For sign in, we're going to pass both email and password, okay? I'm going to come back and I'm going to just leave it like that. So we want to basically get access to the user's email and password, okay? We need to get access on what the user is going to send us. So how we can do it, as normally we did it before we got it from the requester body, we also can do it right here, okay? And so what we're going to do, we're going to say const, I'm going to put an object here, and I'm going to say it's going to come from request.body. So always request is something that we send, response is something that this function returns. So what we want here, we need to get the email and password, okay? And we are going to pass this from the anything. You can just pass it from the Postman, or you can do a front-end request. I mean, you can do anything, whole bunch of it, okay? And now guys, now what we need to do before we go ahead and sign in the user, we want to make sure that email really exists in our system. Before we authenticate whether the user and the password matches, we want to go ahead and make sure that the user's email actually exists, okay? So that's what we're going to do. So the first process, say user, okay, and where the user is going to come, the user is going to come from this model. So I'm going to go say user and user.find1. I'm just going to find one thing. So let's go for user.find1, and then I'm going to get the email, okay? You can pass so anything, but I'm going to get the email, find by email. That's just simply what we are saying. And now, as always, we get two stuff here. We get the error, and we also get the user. So yeah, or we also get the email. It's going, you can call it anything you want, but I'm just going to call it let's call it user, okay? You just call it user for now, it doesn't matter, okay? And now let's go and say check. First check, we want to check it. We want to check if there is an error, okay? And not just error. Now let's just say that this function found this email, which means that it's not going to return an error. It's going to return the user, or basically we can go and say it's going to return the found email. And this case, which is actually sometimes we need to check it, because if the error is there, or the user or the email is not there, okay? So it's going to check whether there's error. No, there is no error. It's going to go ahead and move for the next function and authenticate it. We don't want that. We want to go ahead and check it, okay? We need to first of all check it. If there is any error, or if there is no user, or if there is no email like this, okay? Whatever you found, if there is no email, so how can so if there is no email in a database, basically means that email is not found, or the user hasn't actually signed up. So which is an error. So let's go ahead and pass a status code of 400. Now you can go ahead and research and see which is the best status code for this, but I'm just going to just put 400, which is a bad request. And then I'm going to send an error. Now, as I always say, you can name this anything you want. I'm just going to call it error, okay? And now I'm going to send a response saying email was not found, okay? I'm going to send it like this. Okay, now what if the email is available and the email is actually there, but there is no error, which means the user email is available? Then we need to authenticate the user, right? We need to go ahead and say, yes, this user is there, and we have to do a couple of stuff, as I told, this JWT thing. But before even that, we need to authenticate the user, right? We need to make sure the user is valid. The user is actually, the password he entered is actually matches what is stored in our database. So how do you do it? We've actually done that right here. Sorry, not in our roots, in our model, in our user.js. You see this function, right? Authenticate. What is that going to do? It's going to get that plain password you pass. It is going to go ahead and pass it to a secure password, which is going to go into secure password. And if it's a encrypted password, it's going to get you back the actual, it's going to encrypt the plain password, and then it's going to check that user specific encrypted password. If both of that encrypted password matches, then yes, the user is actually already signed up. Signed up. Or we're going to say email and password does not match. Okay, I hope you get this authentication part. And even if you doesn't get it completely fine, as you more you do, you more get better at it. Okay, so first we're going to check user.authenticate. okay, now where is this authenticate coming from? I just told you right now it's coming from the models, right? We have this, we actually have the access to user, right? As I told you before, we actually have access to this user. So having the access to this user, you can go ahead and just check it whether the email actually exists. But in this case we cannot do that, because we actually I mean, we can do it, but we are not gonna, we actually called it as email, right? So it's in this function, so we have to go ahead, and that's what I thought of calling it as a user. So I guess it's better to call it as a user, so I'm going to go ahead and say user, but you can also call it email. Okay, so this is this user, okay, don't get confused. And now you're checking user.authenticate, and now we're using this authenticate method, which is already given for us, okay, right here in our model. Okay, where is it? Right here in authenticate. And now what we are gonna do is we're gonna just return. Now let's look at this. If the user is authenticated, we need to do stuff, so we can really put that function right below here. What we need to check is also in another validation, if the user.authenticate is equals to false, which basically means that the password doesn't match the email, so password is really wrong. So what we need to go to say, we want to say return, and we want to return a error. You guessed it right. So we also gonna say 400. Now you can research and do something else like 402 or 403. I'm just going to have a bad request status 400, and I'm going to go ahead and put a message. I'm going to call it error, right? And now I'm going to put email and password do not match. Simple as it is. Okay, the email and the password doesn't match. Okay, and now it's going to block what, as I always as it's told before, whatever code you have, it's not going to run, because it is going to return a bad request, or sorry, bad response, and it's going to finish from here. But if the user's email matches, okay, this is not equal to this is a not match function. If it matches, then we go ahead and do couple of stuff. So the first thing that we are going to do is going to create a token. We also, second thing we're going to do, create a cookie with the token, and then we're going to perform some other stuff. So first of all, we need two stuff imported. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and copy and import this right here. So var, you can also call it const or anything like that, or let, it doesn't matter. But you see this JWT, we're requiring the JSON web tokens. So let me go again to the JSON web tokens, and I show you in the documentation JSON web token module, which I'm going to go here. What that is, it is basically if you see right here, it's just going to generate some sort of a secret ID, something like that. There we go. This is a JSON web token, and this token will be used in amongst the bearer, with the bearer, for authorization, and then you would authenticate the user, and this will make sense when I do it. Okay, so don't worry. So let's come back. So that's what we've already installed it in a package.json, or else you gotta go ahead and install JSON web tokens and Express JWT, and we already looked what is the Express JWT, so we don't need to repeat ourselves. Okay, so the first thing that we're gonna do, if everything is working, if everything is perfect, let's go ahead and create some stuff. We're gonna go ahead and say const, we're gonna create a token. Oops, so this is going to be create a token. Okay, I'll comment it, and now I'm going to say const, and I'm going to say token is actually equals to JWT. Okay, whatever we imported, this variable we imported, sorry, package we imported, and we're going to say JWT.sign. Now sign is a function that is basically you can see synchronous sign, the given payload in the JSON. It's going to convert, or it's gonna do a function that is going to convert your JWT a token. It's going to generate a token. Okay, that's a base ID. But first thing you want to pass is you want to pass in a simple ID that is that user's ID, because when you that's how we do the authentication. You need to always pass the user's ID, and based on that user's ID only, it's going to create a token, and then only you can verify, or anyone can create any token and they can verify, and this method could verify. But what we are going to do, we are uniquely creating a token for each and every user, so we can authenticate each and every user in a specified way. So now even if you don't get it, it's already fine. It's just a simple payload we are going to pass. So I'm just going to say, I'm going to go ahead and pass an ID. And where is this ID going to come? You don't need to worry about it, because we have the access to the user, right? So if we have the access to the user, we can obviously, we also have the ID, access to the ID. How? We basically should have to say user, and now I'm going to say ./ID, not just ID. If you see in our Postman also, let me sign up a new user. I'll say test1, and I'll go ahead and send. Now you see we also have an ID. Now this is sign up, okay, not sign in. So if you see, just wanted to show a demo, this is an ID that's generated, and that's not just ID, it's just -ID. So that's where I get access to this. And then I have to pass some sort of a secret variable. So what is that going to do? That I can also pass I love Apple here. So I can say I love Apple. Okay, I can do it, but that's going to use this keyword and going to generate a token. But I would always like to do, we need to keep this secret stuff very much secret. So that's what we always have, this .env, which I'm going to go ahead and use it. I'm going to say secret is equals to, let's say Rajsuthan. Okay, I'm going to say my name. Okay, I'm going to put my name Rajsuthan. That's the secret. Just you can have anything. That's what I want to show. And now you can say process.env, and you can say secret, right? You can get access to this secret. So I'm going to check whether both of them matches. If I don't make any typo, that's good. It matches. Okay. And now you also, if you have access to this secret, we have right now created, we also have to restart our server, then only it will get updated. But we'll do the restart once we have done everything. Okay. Now we have created the token. Now what we need to do, we need to put this token in our cookies. Okay. So how we are going to do it's very simple. Put token into cookie. Okay. And now what we're going to do, we're going to send it as a response, saying response.cookie, right? Response or cookie. And this is, we're going to call this token. We're going to call this response as a token. And then we're going to say user. Okay, sorry, we want to say token, and you actually have to pass this token. Okay, so this is going to be equals to token, and this token is equals to this token what we generated, and then we are also going to pass in when this token is going to be expired. Now it can also expire in a second, in a millisecond, but that's not the best thing to do, right? We need at least the user or the user to be signed in at least for a day or something like that. So you can say new date from the date from the when the user actually went ahead and signed up. From that date we can go ahead and do around one date. Okay, it's gonna it's gonna basically stay for 24 hours from whenever, from the minute I signed up. It's going to create a token, and the token will also have a payload which will expire in one day, i.e. it's going to expire in 24 hours. Okay. Alright, now we have created a cookie / token. We have added the cookie to the token, and now we need to send this response to our front end. So how could we actually do it? It's pretty simple, guys. We are gonna first of all we just have to send so I'm gonna say send response to front end, or we're gonna send a response. Okay, or basically means front end, or just say send response. Okay, you front end, every response can be accessible by front end. That's the truth. Okay, response. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to say return. Okay, and return, obviously catch that, it's going to be rest.json. And now we need to pass a couple of things. What we need to pass the token which we already have created, and then you have to pass the user, right? And we want to say right here, and we want to go ahead and pass the user. So how are we going to get access to this user? You can actually pass your user like this, but what I am going to do, I'm going to pass it in a pretty different way. So I'm going to destructure I'm going to get all the variables from my user, okay, which is equals to user, everything, and I'm just gonna really structure it and pass it. So first I'm gonna go ahead and get the ID. Okay, I'm going to get the name. All right, I'm also going to get the name. I'm going to get the email, and I'm also going to get, no, that's it. Okay, just the ID, the name, and the email, because that's what we've already signed up with. It's not, we don't need the password and all of this. This is just for we don't need to send the response as a password. We actually need to just send the ID, the name, and the email, okay, with the token, right? Token is very important. That's why we do it. We basically create a token to send it to the front end. Okay, now we have created the token, we're sending the user, but we are not going to send it like this. We're going to do it in a pretty different way this time. So I'm just going to say user, okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and in the user, I'm also going to send the user as an object. So I can say I'm going to send the ID, okay, and I'm going to send the name, okay, and I'm going to send the email, and that's it. And I just wanted to do it in this way because I wanted to show you you can do this in any way, okay? It doesn't matter, but as long as you send the user with some good responses, this is good to go, okay? So now you've already done the authentication part where I'll go ahead again, we sign in, and now we get, okay, we have the password, but we're not using the password. So let's go ahead and check why you won't be using. All right, so user.authenticate, it's not going to authenticate, just you have to pass something to this function, right? And that's what I saw. You got to go ahead and pass its password, and now it's good. Okay, you're good to go. And then now we are also authenticating them. We are first finding whether the email exists. If the email doesn't exist, we're going to say email was not found. And we can also say if you want him to sign up, you can do something like that. But just a response, we are saying email was not found, authenticate the user, say if the user's password doesn't match, you have to go ahead and say email and password doesn't match. And after, if the password, everything matches, if the sign-in is successful, we actually go ahead and create, if the user is successful, we create a token jwt.signed, we pass in the user ID, and we're going to create a token based on that user ID using our secret, which we have already done it in the env. So we need to restart the server. I have to not forget that, but yeah. And then we have to put the token into a cookie. We're going to first pass in the token as a string. We want to specify, yes, this is the token, and when the token should be expired, and then we're going to send that as a response, destructuring the ID, name, and email from the user, and returning that token plus the user. Okay, this is what we have done. And now, as I told before, I'm going to close my terminal, and I am going to restart the server because I've already made some changes in the env file. So I have to go ahead and start the server again. So let me go say npm start. And also one more thing, I'm going to go ahead and check whether my Mongo is running. Okay, good, Mongo DB is running. Okay, now we have already said DB connected, and now let's go ahead, and in the roots I am going to go ahead and say sign in, which is going to automatically import it. Okay, that's good. So yes, before we go ahead and test these out, if we can make some sort of validation, you can also do it right here. You see this password. Okay, so let's go ahead and do it. Just a minute. So let's copy this, okay, and we're gonna go ahead and use this. Okay, I'm going to use it like that. All right, so I'm going to use this as a oops, we need it's an array, I forgot about that. So we can go ahead and use it, but before that we'll just go ahead and test it and see whether this sign-in route actually works. And if you see we have an error here, we have to put /sign-in, make sure everything is perfect. It needs to be a slash or it's not gonna work. Okay, and now let's go ahead, sign in, and our database should be connected. That's good. And let's go ahead, and also do you see this authorization? So this is what we have done. I've already saved it. What I can do, I can click on this arrow key and I can go save as. Okay, and now I can call this sign in, and I can go ahead, I guess you can go, and I have to select what collection I want to save this. Sometimes it's figured. I'm just going to go ahead and say authorization, and I want to save this to authorization. I have two requests, sign in. It's always good because I can always save it. And now in the headers, we don't need nothing. It's going to have a content type application JSON. It's going to be a post request. It's going to be sign in, not sign up. Okay, and now we don't need the name, we only need the email and password. So now let's go ahead and click a send request, and now if you see waiting cannot post API sign in. So let's go ahead and check why why it's not going to go ahead and post it. All right, guys. So I just went ahead and restarted my server, and for no reason, after I restarted my server, my sign-in route is actually working. Then I actually figured it out. Then I couldn't restart it. I had to restart it properly because I guess because of this secret key. Okay. Probably it didn't get updated before, so then I went ahead and restarted my server again. Believe me or not, that's what it did. Okay, so we have all of these results, and then I restarted my server, and then that was the error. I don't know, because of that, as I told you, that env problem. So even if you get this problem for no reason, then go ahead and restart your server 1 or 2 times, and then it should pretty much work. Okay. Alright, guys, so if you see, we have put our email, we have put a password, and then we have successfully logged in, saying we've also got a unique token for this specific user, and we can use this specific token to actually authenticate the user throughout the application. As I told before, as an example, if you want the user to access the admin, then you want to check whether the user is signed in. So to check whether the user is signed in, you can copy this. Okay, you can copy this token and put it in local storage, and whenever the user goes to that specific route, whether it's dashboard or admin, then you can always run this function and check whether you can use a performer function, and then check you can authenticate whether the generated token matches with the user, and if that matches with the user, which is stored in local storage, then you go ahead and allow him. But for now, we've already signed up the user. Congratulations, guys, if you made it till the end. And let's just go ahead and anyway just see if I just put a if I delete some of the them. Now this email doesn't exist because I deleted some of the things like this. I'm gonna go ahead and say send, and if you see email was not found, it's gonna give you that error. Now let me go ahead and say test again, and I'm gonna put my password as something else, and I'm gonna say send email and password do not match. Okay, so that's what we are doing. And then we also can just go ahead and put the correct password and email, and if you send, it's gonna generate a token. And every time I make a request, the token changes. Okay, the token changes, but this token changes according to your user ID, which means then Express JWT can always authenticate this token wherever it's possible. Okay, guys, so we have successfully finished this sign in. Okay, so now let's go ahead and quickly see what we can do to just go ahead and sign out a user. Alright, guys, so I want to go ahead and quickly show you how to do this sign out route. Okay, we're going to do it right now. So I'm going to say, I know and I hope you guys enjoyed the sign in route. So it is going to be fairly simple compared to sign in. It's very simple, just believe me, guys. So let's go ahead and create a router. So router, and this is going to be a get route. So I'm going to say get, and let's say /sign. Okay, and this is going to be sign out. Okay, you not need to create this, but just for testing, we're just going to do all 3 of them. Okay, sign, not sign in, it's just going to be sign out. And now this is going to be a function called sign out. Okay, let's go ahead and design this in our controllers. I'm going to go ahead right here, and now I'm going to go ahead and run a function here called exports. Okay, dot sign out, and as always it returns 2 star. We need to pass 2 parameters. What we need to do is first we want to pass in the request, and then we need to pass in the response. Okay, even though you use the request or not, it's a best practice to always pass the request and response. Okay, and now what we are going to do, guys, we are basically going to say the response, and we are going to clear the cookie. Okay, the cookie we created when we are signing in, we are going to clear the cookie, and the cookie's name is called token. And if I go up, so let's call it token, and if I go up, you can say we created the cookie called token. So I'm going to go ahead and search for this token, and then what I am going to do is to just go ahead and clear the cookie, and then I need to also send a response to the user. So I'm going to say response.json, and I am going to say I'm going to send the message to the user. Okay, so I'm going to say message, and I have to say user sign out successful. Okay, that's what we gotta say. The user sign out is successful, and that's the only thing you want to say. And now, yeah, make sure you always return this. Okay, so you go ahead and return this. All right, so we also have this sign on function, and trust me guys, that's it. And now let's go ahead to sign out, and let's just import it right there. Okay, we're not going to have any middlewares, it's just basic sign out route, and we can go ahead and test it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and save this, which is the sign in route, and after you saved it, I'm going to go ahead and create a copy, save as, and then I'm going to say sign out. Okay, you need not need to do it, but I'm just trying to show you how you can do it. And you see it's a sign out, and I'm gonna go ahead and change this to get request, and I am going to show you, and I'm gonna try to change it to sign out. And you don't need to pass anything in the body. Okay, you just need to pass the sign out. And now I'm going to say none, and I'll go ahead and say send. And if you say user sign out is successful, and this is something that you need to do it, but I'm just trying to show you that you can do it in this way as well. Okay, alright guys, that is such easy on doing this sign out. Sign out is very simple. As I told you, do not need to do it, but I just did it, and you can skip it if you want to. Okay, so in the next section I will catch you, and I will show you an hands-on experience how we will implement bearer and how we will do authorization. It's not part of the video, but I will still show you how to use the authorization to go ahead, how to use the token we generated from sign-in to go ahead and use it in the authorization using something called bearer. Okay, hey guys, that's it for the video. Thank you so much if you made it this far end of the video. I really appreciate that. And actually it was nice that we went from zero, making a simple boiler templates, creating a server, and now ending up creating sign in, sign up, and sign out. And if you're a beginner, if you've done this successfully, great congratulations for you. And in this video we actually worked on the REST API, the backend REST API, using Node.js, Node.js, Express, and MongoDB. And in the part 2 I've actually taught to design a front-end login page using React.js, and we are going to create post requests and all of this stuff to sign in and sign up a user. And in that I will actually show you how to use a bearer and authentication to give access to some of the routes, and I cannot show you in this video, but in the part 2 definitely I will show you in the video. And I hope I brought some insight or some good knowledge for beginners who's out there who was feeling some sort of tough to do this authentication, which is very simple to do. I think I brought some value to you, but let me know in the comments. Anyway, I would love to hear your comments. I really appreciate and value your comments, so please leave that in the description. And I wasn't consistent enough on YouTube, and I have to create it very seriously right now, and I'm trying to create more content in the future. So if you're watching in the future, probably there are more videos in my channel which you have to check it out, and also part 2 of this video. Okay, thank you so much for watching. That's the end. Follow me in LinkedIn, social media, as I will also leave everything in the description. And yes, until then, talk to you soon, and take care. Bye bye. See you.